Tetragrammaton.
It's one of my earliest recollections, like 3.5. But I had these older cousins that were teenagers. They had Kiss all over their walls. And I remember just looking in there and being so scared and running away, going and being so scared and running away. But then it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And anytime I saw Kiss, or like Kiss played Solid Gold once. Remember the show Solid Gold?
Yeah.
I must have been like 5 years old at this time, but I made my mom wait up because Kiss was gonna play.
Yeah.
And so that kind of got me into rock, and it just kind of, I didn't have anyone really turn me on to the music, but seeing them.
And you think it was the image was the thing that got you first as a little kid?
Well, it scared the shit out of me,
Yeah.
the image, you know?
Yeah.
I never heard a song.
Yeah.
Maybe a few years later, I heard a song. Like,
Yeah.
I started collecting records when I was like that age, really young.
7 inches or albums or CDs?
Records.
Yeah.
There was no CDs at that time. It was still vinyl. Cassettes were fairly new. 8-tracks were still around at that time, but
Yeah.
I didn't have
But
that.
mainly vinyl albums.
Yeah. The first Kiss I ever heard was Paul Stanley's solo Kiss.
Yeah, when the 4 solo albums came out.
That was the first. But once again, I'm 5 or 6 years old at this time. I don't even know what's happening. But the first one that I took my mom to the store was a Def Leppard Pyromania, which was huge around the time I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Did you hear them on the radio? Is that how you got into it?
It was just everywhere. Yeah, probably radio.
Yeah.
Just
what was the radio
really
that you listened to growing up?
You know, my mom would put on Kiss FM or something, like on my way to school. Pop radio, but I was always attracted to the rock music. Like, even my closest older cousins were all like into dance, disco music, which I grew up with as well, and I love. But I don't know, something all by myself. It was just this music, and it was something that was kind of, remember the 80s, there was like a whole satanic thing. And I don't know, for some reason that even attracted me more.
Was it heavy or dark, or did you like that it was guitar based?
Aggressive. It was aggressive music.
Feels like young boys like aggressive music.
But I was a child.
Yeah.
Like maybe teenage.
Yeah.
A lot of people get into music when they start turning teenagers, but I was like a child, so I can't really explain. Like when people are like, how did you, it's like music found me. I didn't really go look for it. My parents are both artists. So
what type of artists?
My mom, in Iraq, my mom did sculptures, and she has pictures of her making like these tall sculptures, like much bigger than her.
Yeah.
And she taught art. And my dad has been doing abstract art till this day. Since I was born, I can remember there was painting, abstract paintings. That's just always been in the house. Art has always been in the house, but no one pushed it on me. It was just there. It was just something that I was born into, and it was just normal. It was there. It was normal to watch my dad paint. It was normal to watch him experiment. They didn't really listen to too much music.
They were more visual artists.
Yeah, like they never like, you know, put on a record at the house. It was always me as a kid putting on my records and stuff. But they like music. They listen to music. One of the reasons I think I'm a musician is because when my mother was pregnant, she sang a lot. And that's the only reason I could think of, like, why have you always been so, you know, into music since you were like a baby?
Did she always sing?
No, but when she was pregnant, she sang a lot, and she sang a lot of like Arabic, Egyptian singers like Kulthum. I don't know if you've ever, she's huge. She's like a Aretha Franklin of Arabic music.
Let's listen to one.
Yeah. She won't sing for a while, which is also cool. This was probably composed by a guy named Muhammad Abdul Wahab. He did a lot of good stuff. I can't, this one may not be, but I know he did a lot of.
Did your mom grow up with this music?
Yes, my whole family did. They're from Iraq, so that Egyptian music was big. Like there was other singers like Abdul Halim, Farid Atrash. There's a great guitar player named Omar Khorshid. I think I've sent you some of his stuff before. He's like the king of Arabic guitar. But his tone was very surf. Like he was influenced by surf rock.
Cool.
You hear it in his guitar tone. He's not necessarily playing surf rock, but like he might be playing on this track actually. I always say if I would have never written Aerials if
you didn't hear
this wasn't part of me.
Yeah. I want to hear the vocalist wait a little longer.
I told you it's it's them playing for a very long time, and then sometimes the audience. If this is live, the audience will clap and ask her to not sing and ask them to do this all over again. I don't know what she's saying. I don't speak Arabic. It's all about lost love and crushed because of it, these kinds of things. I don't know what she's singing now, but my parents always say that's the theme.
Like heartbreak?
Heartbreak, but it's deep though. It's not corny.
It doesn't sound corny.
Because they cry when they hear it. So like there's something going on here.
How old were your parents when they moved to the United States?
In their mid to late 20s.
So around what year was that?
74, 75.
75.
I was born in 75, so they were here 74. And they came straight to Hollywood from Baghdad.
Why did they decide to move to the U.S.?
Saddam. Things were changing in Iraq. They felt like if they were going to do art, it was probably going to have to be for like propaganda. Just things were changing. One of my uncles got detained once. It like really put a scare in him. Like he thought he was going to die. Things were changing a lot in Iraq at that time. So some of my families had the guts to leave because half of my family stayed there. Mm. But I thank God every day, man. I mean, if they stayed there, I would have ended up becoming a soldier. I don't know if I would have been old enough for Iran, Iraq, but I would have definitely been old enough for the 2 U.S. Mm-hmm. I have cousins and uncles that were all soldiers at that time. So.
And probably didn't have a choice there. It was
no, you gotta go. Yeah, you gotta go.
Yeah.
So I remember that all hit me once. I was on a tour bus in Baltimore we were driving and outside was Baltimore. It was really early in the morning. I was still up all night. I never thought of it before, but I was like, wow, man, if my parents never moved, here I am on this tour bus with this band. And if the alternative, it would have been
unbelievable.
Me as a soldier.
Yeah.
And I cannot picture myself as a soldier, but you'd have to do it. And I never thought of that but I always remember that bus ride, and that's where that hit me.
Yeah.
And I'm like so thankful to my parents for, it wasn't easy. They came here with nothing. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment off like Santa Monica and Vine, pretty shady.
Did they ever talk about life in Iraq before?
Yeah, it was good.
So life was good up until Saddam.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and then they escaped, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, they escaped, and my uncles that stayed there, the government would always ask them, where are your brothers? Where are your sisters? Like, where'd they go? Did they talk to you? Did they send you letters? So those people that stayed there had a kind of a tough time. Once again, they served in the military. They had bombs fall on them numerous times. They're all here now. Luckily, I made something of the music thing, and I was able to bring them here. So that was a big deal for me because ISIS and all that stuff was happening, you know.
Yeah.
So,
can you play me a little bit of Aerials and tell me the connection to that Egyptian music?
I'd have to tune it the right way. I don't know, just the vibe of it, just the... Just like it moves kind of in the, they're not quarter notes, but it kind of moves in that type of way. I guess that's how I interpret what I'm hearing in some way.
Yeah, it shares the emotion of the Egyptian music.
Yeah, and it wasn't done because I wanted to play that.
No.
It's just how shit comes out of me. When people say like, you know, there's this Arabic or Armenian influence, and I rarely ever try to do that.
Not intentional.
Yeah, it's not intentional. It just kind of comes out of me that way. I think that kind of music, Eastern music, Middle Eastern music, is to me what I guess blues would be to someone with a family that's from the West.
Yeah.
Because that's just those scales and that vibe is more natural to rock.
It's your folk music.
Yeah.
Growing up, where would you hear folk music? Armenian folk music?
I don't know about Armenian folk music, but going to a wedding, you'd hear a lot of like Armenian dance music and pop music.
It was around.
It was around because I was in the Armenian community. My family, my friends were on. But for me, at that time, it wasn't necessarily what I would put on because I was just into rock and whatever, popular music or heavy metal music.
LMNT, Element Electrolytes. Have you ever felt dehydrated after an intense workout or a long day in the sun? Do you want to maximize your endurance and feel your best? Add Element Electrolytes to your daily routine. Perform better and sleep deeper. Improve your cognitive function. Experience an increase in steady energy with fewer headaches and fewer muscle cramps. Element Electrolytes. Drink it in the sauna. Refreshing flavors include grapefruit, citrus, watermelon, and chocolate salt. Formulated with the perfect balance of sodium, potassium, and magnesium to keep you hydrated and energized throughout the day. These minerals help conduct the electricity that powers your nervous system so you can perform at your very best. Element Electrolytes are sugar-free, keto-friendly, and great tasting. Minerals are the stuff of life. So visit drinklmnt.com/tetra and stay salty with Element Electrolyte. LMNT.
When did you first start playing guitar?
When I was 12. The guitar, I'm not in love with the guitar. I never have been. When I said I grew up in a 1-bedroom apartment, I always wanted drums. I was more into the singers. I was more into the drummers. The guitar came by accident because you can turn off an amplifier. When we lived in that apartment, I was like, drums. When we move one day and I get my own room, because me and my parents slept in that same room for like 11 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I never had my own room until I was like 12 years old. So we moved to Glendale. And I had my own room, and all right, 12th birthday, going to the music store, gonna get my drum set. Always wanted it. That's always what I dreamt of doing. So my parents kind of had a talk amongst each other and said, you can't really turn off the drums. And so they got me an amp about this big. It was a Gorilla amp. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah.
And like a guitar was an Arbor. I don't even think that company is around anymore. And I still wanted drums after that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The guitar was there. The amp was there. It was in my room. And I just started fiddling with it. And I started spending more time with it. And the next thing you know, I'm a guitar player. Never got the drums. So I'm happy it worked out that way. But I've just never been the guy that there's some guys that are just in love with the guitar. And that's their thing. That's what they do. For me, it's a tool to write songs. I never wanted to be some technical guitar virtuoso or anything, but I was really into composing and writing my own stuff. And I had these friends like in high school. I never really hung out with too many musicians. My friends were all we were like trouble. We were like the guys who would be fighting at school. And, we weren't a gang, but it was somewhat gang-like, you could say, because we fought a lot. But it was these kind of guys. They weren't metal guys. They weren't artsy guys. They weren't, and so I would write these songs that were kind of ballady, folky, English songs. I don't really write in Armenian. I would be the guy that took his acoustic to the party. And, I'd play a little cover here and there, but I would also play my own stuff. And when I would play my own stuff, I realized like it would really touch one of my friends, and you'd see the guy walk out and he'd be crying.
Even then?
Yeah. I was maybe 14, 15 years old. And that's when I realized something where it was like I had this thing that I can touch people with these songs.
At that time, would it have been guitar and vocals?
Yeah. It's always guitar vocals for me.
Yeah.
When I write, I always write guitar and vocals.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, I don't write riffs.
Yeah.
A lot of guys write riffs.
You write songs.
I want that riff to turn into a song.
Yeah.
If it's just a riff, I'm not impressed. I could write plenty of riffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more impressed with myself and happy when I've written a song, a full song, verse, chorus. I know how it's going to move. If I don't have the lyrics, I know how the vocals are going to move and the melody is going to go. And when I present a song to the band, or whether it's System or when I do Scars, it's always me with a guitar kind of like this, and just showing the band the song, the whole song, not just like I got this part.
And it's always been that way.
Yeah.
That you pretty much write a song top to bottom and think of it as a composition.
Yeah.
Not a series of parts.
I wouldn't bring it in if it wasn't like I usually feel like, okay, the song is ready to show when I have that.
Yeah.
I've never really been like, oh, I got this one riff, but I don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
There's times where I'll have a composition and I'll say, I have an idea of how the vocals should move, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But I'm usually pretty certain of how, the tempo and the music and how I want this part to be moving, how I want that part to be moving. It's all going on in my head while I'm writing it.
the chords and the melodies come at the same time?
Sometimes.
Typically.
There's no right way or wrong way. What happens is I'll be sitting and playing the guitar and I'll come up with something. Maybe I'll come up with a riff, maybe the riff and something else. And I just record it and I leave it. And then the next time I play, I always go through my ideas and I play with them almost like a toy. Sometimes a song will come out right away, but sometimes it takes a long time for me to piece together a song, you know?
Give me an example of, in terms of it happening quickly, how long would it be quickly, and how long would it be if it took a long time?
Like a song like BYOB probably took a long time. I wrote the middle part first.
What's the middle part?
The blast up, it's party time. We don't live in a fascist nation. That by itself was like this, why don't presidents fight the war? Why they always send for? Why don't presidents fight the war? That was just kind of, it was like this punk song, kind of punky type of song that I wrote. But then time passed and I wrote and I had also, and that was totally because I was listening to Funkadelic at the time.
Wow, that's cool.
And it's not like I'm trying to mix this and it just kind of like one night I was playing and that's what I'm saying. Like maybe I don't have that part yet, maybe.
Yeah.
So you know, when I pick up the guitar for that week, I'm just playing my, you know. And goes, you know.
And then just seeing what it leads into.
But I don't force it.
Yeah.
And at some point, it led into that. I can't tell you exactly when, but it led into. And it wasn't on purpose, and it wasn't because, oh, I'm listening to Funkadelic and I want to do a Funkadelic thing. It just kind of came out that way. And I feel like you have to have the patience to let that happen. You know?
Yeah. It takes as long as it takes.
Some people, look, everyone's got their way, but I don't write my songs in front of a computer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't record them right away. I play them. I have a list of songs that nobody's ever heard. And every time I pick up the guitar, I play through all of them. And each one of them, some of them might be more finished than the others, but each one of them has this part that I'm like, you know, that can be better. That can be better. But I play with it like you play with a toy. You shape it, you try, doesn't work, you know, until something comes along and you feel confident. And that's kind of how the long process is, and where you know, need patience.
Did you say you play every day?
No.
How often do you play?
When I want.
Yeah, but how often do you want to?
Sometimes a month will go by that I don't play, and sometimes I play for that whole week, and sometimes, I mean, when I was growing up, I played every day.
Yeah.
But.
And how many hours a day would you play?
Back in those days?
Yeah.
The whole day would pass by like 6, 7, 8. I don't know, man.
Yeah. Would you consider it practicing, or it was something else?
I never practice.
I just play. Would you play 2 other things, or no? You play along with records? No.
No.
Just play by yourself looking for songs.
Just enjoying my shit that I've written. And somewhere down the line, it gets better. The last thing that comes to my mind whenever I write something is, I can't wait for everyone to hear this.
You're doing it for yourself in that moment.
Just like my dad. My dad paints paintings. He doesn't do exhibits or anything. He does it because he does it. That's like, he doesn't know any other way to live.
That's what he does.
He doesn't even sign them. And it's kind of, for me, releasing it is kind of weird. Like, because I never really listened to those songs again.
Yeah.
I rarely put on Toxicity. I rarely put on System records, Scars record, anything I made. Once I put it out, it's like almost like bye-bye.
Yeah, but even a song from childhood, if you haven't released it, you might still play it.
Yes.
Because it's still yours.
Yeah.
Once you put it out, it's not
and
really,
I enjoy it.
It becomes everybody's.
Yeah, and I enjoy it. I don't know any other way to be. Like, I would be doing this if I was not the guy from System of a Down. I would still be doing this.
Yeah.
And it's for me.
Yeah.
It's not even an approach. Like, it's just the way it is. That's the way I know. That's the way I've watched my dad. That's the way I've seen art. You do it because you enjoy it. You love it. It's an itch, and you want to impress yourself.
How is it different playing by yourself versus playing with a band?
I mean, with a band, you're rehearsing to play a song. Playing by myself's more intimate. I don't really play in front of people anymore.
By yourself? You mean?
Yeah. Like, remember I said I used to take my guitar to...
Yeah.
For some reason, once the band got kind of big, something changed in me. Every time I picked up a guitar in front of people, it became this, like, some kind of big deal or something to them. And
you think people had expectations or something?
I don't know, but I kind of don't, like, I wait for my girl to go to bed. Like, she rarely ever sees me play the guitar. It's always when I'm alone.
Yeah. And you can entertain yourself alone for a long time doing it?
Yeah.
Hours and hours.
Yeah, and not just guitar, man. Like I said, it's not like I'm not in love with this. I'm in love with making sounds, synthesizers,
Making stuff.
Anything that feels right to me at that moment. That I have a craving, and my cravings change. Sometimes my craving is the guitar. Sometimes I only want to play in clean. Sometimes I don't want to plug it in. I just want to play it like that. And things change when you don't plug it in and write something, as opposed to put some distortion on that app and write something.
You think it has something to do with what you're hearing, or how it feels on your fingers?
I think how it feels, and hearing, sure. I mean, you're hearing it, but you put an effect on it, makes you play a different something.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not putting anything is an effect all its own as well. So
most of your songs are straightforward guitar plugged into the amp.
Not too much.
Not a lot of tricks.
But I don't count out that maybe I may do some tricks somewhere.
Yeah. You're not against it.
Yeah.
But just most of your songs
hasn't happened that way.
Yeah. Was System your first band, or were you in a band before?
The first band situation I ever played for was with these 3 guys, and we used to play Metallica covers in their dad's little garage. I was probably about 13 years old around that time.
Did you ever jam with other people, or it was more playing songs with other people?
At that time, it was more playing songs with other people. Towards the end of high school, I met this guy at a party, and he was with someone that I had gone to elementary school with, who I hadn't seen for a long time. They were looking for a singer, and I was like, okay, I can sing, I'm a singer. They had a lead guitar player guy, but I said, for me, the guitar and the vocals, it kind of comes together. I'm like a combo deal there. And so I went and tried out for their band, and they were into what I was doing. We played Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and they were like, it just kind of hit. Shavo was there. And Shavo is also someone I remembered from that Armenian elementary school that I went to, that I had left a while ago, but he's a year older than I am, so he was in the class, but I remember Shavo from there. So there was a few people that came to those rehearsals that were from that elementary school. And Shavo was there, and Shavo was just there as a friend, not really playing anything. So he heard us, and he kind of told the guys in the band that were his friends, he's like, just get rid of the guitar player and bring this guy in. He's kind of, doing the guitar and he's singing, and, you guys kind of sound more alive. And then I started bringing songs into that band. They were more like kind of rock. This is like, we're talking early 90s, late 80s. The glam scene was still kind of...
Like hair metal?
It was more towards that direction. Music, but little heavier than hair metal, and we didn't really have the hair.
Yeah.
But the style of the music was that kind of more rock. Wasn't very metal, it was more rock. And so yeah, Shavo told them, keep this guy and get rid of the other guy. And that's kind of what ended up happening. And then so that band shared a rehearsal studio with a band that Serge played with, but Serge didn't sing. Serge just played the keyboards at that time. He had never sang before. So I was the singer. And at some point, that band wanted to get rid of their singer and asked me to, like Serge's band asked me to be their singer. But I was like, they sang in Armenian. I could do it.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't something that I felt, I don't know, I felt a little bit out of my skin singing in Armenian. I always sang in English. So I never became their singer, but I started jamming with them.
Did the kids in that band, were they born in the United States or were they born somewhere else? Do you know?
Probably born in Lebanon.
So born in Lebanon, which so maybe
Serge was born in Lebanon.
You grew up here.
Yeah.
Were born here.
Yeah.
So English was your first language. You know some Armenian.
No, I speak. I went to Armenian school. I mean,
see.
I speak Armenian. Well, I can sing Armenian.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just not something I wanted to do at that time. I don't know. It just didn't flow out of me the same way English. Still.
Did many of the kids have the same story of parents coming to the U.S., similar situation?
Well, it depends what country they're coming from.
Tell me some of the examples, because I don't know anything about the community.
Well, it was war, or the Lebanese Armenians came here because there was war at that time in their country. Persian Armenians came here because the Ayatollah took over at some point, 79. Iraq Armenians, Saddam. So everyone was kind of coming here for a better life. Things were changing in the countries that they grew up in, which takes balls, man.
Yeah,
for sure. I mean, if shit was changing here, I don't know if I'd be able to get up and leave and go to fucking Iraq.
Yeah. No, it's radical.
And I went to Iraq.
Yeah.
When I was 14 years old, my mom took me to Iraq.
What was that like?
And when I was 14, I was full-on speed metal, thrash metal kid. But I had a Motley Crue t-shirt on the whole time. And I was walking around Iraq with a Motley Crue t-shirt, and it had like this chick's ass. And our luggage was lost. So that's all I had. And so I wear this Motley Crue t-shirt, and I think it was like Nikki Sixx on a motorcycle or something, and it was this chick with her ass sticking out. And so it was a culture shock. I was there for 2 months.
Wow.
I saw my family, I mean, people I only saw in pictures.
Yes.
You know, my grandmother, my aunts, my cousins. So it was nice to see them. But this was at like the height of Saddam. So everywhere you turned was Saddam. If we were in this room, you better have that picture of him up there, because they'll question you if you don't. So business, everyone's house. You walk outside, there's a statue. You look at where there's a picture. You look over there, the building, there's no Marlboro ad. It's a Saddam ad. 2 channels on the television. One of them Saddam all day, one of them Saddam half the day.
Wow.
And I'm from Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know, and not used to this life. So it was like I had all my cassettes with me with my Walkman, and I took a bunch of metal magazines and I read through every single. I was bored.
Yeah. But
Slayer, Show No Mercy. That was when I think of Iraq, I think of Slayer, Show No Mercy, because that was the album that I had on in my head a lot, and it was just 2 months of. It was very educational. I mean, you know, I learned a lot about, you know, how the world is different than where I come from. And, you know, if you say anything bad about Saddam, like I would be this little punk kid, and I'm like, what if we told Saddam to fuck off? They'd be like, shh, don't fucking say
they'll take you away.
Yeah, don't say that shit, man. You crazy?
Yeah. The people live in fear.
Yeah. The people live in fear. You don't fuck around.
Yeah.
You don't say that kind of thing. You put the picture up.
Yeah, yeah.
So. And I think I might be the first person that might have taken that kind of music to Iraq.
Yeah.
In 1989. When I put on for my cousins, they like Slayer, Metallica.
They never heard anything like that before.
Like, what the hell is this? It's like, this is music?
So the music they were hearing was more like what your parents grew up on, like
yes,
Arabic.
or a pop version of that
Yeah.
as time went on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then were you happy to come back to Hollywood?
Well, we were living in Glendale at that time, but I was a kid that grew up in Hollywood. That
Yeah.
you know, we only had been living in Glendale for like 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, you know, I was happy, but during the first Iraq war, what was the Desert Storm?
Yeah.
That's when I learned the media lies to you. I was only about 15 years old at that time.
What
but-
were the lies?
Well, just kind of dehumanizing the people in Iraq so the people here would be more open to us throwing bombs over their heads. Both times are very tough for my family because it's my grandmother that's there. It's my aunt that's there.
Yeah. And you know that they're good people like
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, and I know the other people in Iraq were very nice people as
Yeah.
well.
Maybe they didn't like Saddam, but it had nothing to do with the people.
No, it has half the people hated Saddam. More than half the people hated Saddam. They just couldn't come out and say that they hated Saddam.
Yeah.
But, you know, my family didn't like Saddam on the most part. I still have some aunts that like
The ones who liked him, what did they like?
well, in their head was like, just don't start trouble and trouble won't come to you. And that's kind of the deal.
It's like if you mind your own business, everything's fine.
Yeah, don't try to overthrow the government. Don't try to conspire to do things. Just, you know, live your life and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know?
So it was only if you went against the government that you'd be in trouble.
Yeah, but his sons, you know, were fucking assholes too. They would pick on people. You would say, I mean, there was a movie about it. Like the guy would like go to a wedding and take the bride and fuck the bride. And I mean, his sons were probably bigger son of a bitches than he was. And, you know, torture. And, you know, if they assume maybe you didn't do anything and they just assumed, and you're next thing you know, you're being fucking tortured. And there's
Wow.
like, you're in a room with cigarettes going out in your fucking eyeballs or some shit. You know, I mean, I don't fucking, you know, I couldn't tell you the details as well as my family members can who live there. I was only there for 2 months, but
And they were all happy to get out.
some of them wish things just didn't change because
Yeah, because it was their home.
yeah,
Understood.
like
So they missed their home, but their home changed. So
they had no choice
had no
because
choice.
once again you had ISIS that started. I got them out of there before all that shit started happening. You know, and they're Christians,
yeah.
so not the safest place to be a Christian when ISIS is running around town chopping heads off. And they just
wild.
assume that, you know, you might be doing something against them and you're
Yeah.
screwed. That's, you know, like I said, they detained my uncle back in the day because he accidentally bumped into some guy's bike and that guy happened to be some huge official. It was total accident. They take him to this room and they made him feel like they were going to kill him.
Yeah.
And out in his head, he was like, fuck this. I got to find a way out of here.
In a world of artificial highs and harsh stimulants, there is something different, something clean, something precise. Athletic nicotine. Not the primitive products found behind convenience store counters. Not the aggressive buzz that leaves you jittery, but a careful calibration of clean energy and focused clarity. Athletic nicotine. The lowest dose tobacco-free nicotine available. Made entirely in the USA. No artificial sweetener, just pure, purposeful elevation. Athletic nicotine is a performance nootropic. Athletic nicotine is a tool for shifting mindsets. Athletic nicotine is a partner in pursuit of excellence. Slow release, low dose, gradual lift, sustained energy, soft landing, inspired results. Athletic nicotine, more focus, less static. Athletic nicotine, more clarity, less noise. Athletic nicotine, more accuracy, less anxiety. Athletic nicotine, from top athletes pushing their limits to artists pursuing their vision. Athletic nicotine offers the lift you've been looking for. Learn more at athleticnicotine.com/tetra and experience next level performance with Athletic Nicotine.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
You get asked to sing for the band that Serge is in.
Mm-hmm. So I don't do that, but I ended up jamming with them a lot. You know, I'd rehearse with my band, and then if they came in, I would stick around and I would play guitar with them.
Were you friends with all of them?
I got to know them through this situation. Not really. I wasn't really friends with anybody, to be honest with you. It was just
people to play music
the
with.
guys we shared our studio with, and that's kind of how I got to know them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I knew them for years.
Mm-hmm.
They were older than I was. Serge is 8 years older than I am.
Mm.
But that's how Serge and I became friends.
Were they
through
serious about that band? Did they think?
Not so sure. It was kind of like a weekend kind of guys that had other things going on, but they played like, you know, they had equipment and they enjoyed playing and jamming. But I'm not sure they were trying to take it anywhere. I mean, through my life, I was always like, anyone who knew me when I was a kid would tell you he always said that this is what he wanted to do. Like, if you met me at 8 years old, if you met me at 12 years old, anyone who knew me through my life knew. So as I was getting older, they even called me to the school counselor once, and I'm a high school dropout, and I got kicked out of my high school twice. They sent me to a continuation school. I don't know if you know what that is. It's where all the pregnant girls go. So pregnant girls, gangsters, the kids that were, you know, more trouble,
I see.
You know, would go there because it ain't working out for you. You ditch all day, or you get into too many fights, or you know what I mean? They send you away to this school. It was like a bunch of bungalows. For lunch, a lunch truck would show up. Like, it was totally different. But anyway, they sent me to the counselor, and they're like, you know, you're failing all your classes. You hardly show up to school. You show up, you ditch. You probably go to 1 or 2 classes. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with your life? And I go, I'm a musician. They're like, you're a musician?
Even then, you knew it.
Yeah.
You thought of yourself as that.
Yeah, I said, I'm gonna. So they're like, what's your plan? I go, I'm gonna start a band. I'm gonna play on Sunset Strip. That's what I told my counselors. And they even had like a school psychiatrist there and everything. You know, is everything good at home? And I'm like, everything's fine.
Yeah.
But it was just something that in my head, I had convinced myself that this is gonna happen. I don't know, man. I was very confident.
Yeah.
So they're like, all right, off to CT you go then, you know, and they sent me to CT. But so through my late teenage years, I was always looking for the band.
Yeah.
This is the band that I feel like I can make it in.
Yeah.
Like, I might have been in a band, but I was like, I don't think this band's going to make it.
But when you say make it, the aspiration was to play on the Sunset Strip.
Yeah, and become popular on the Sunset Strip, I guess.
But you didn't think about playing, like last time I saw you play, 60,000 people came to see you play songs that you've recorded more than 15 years ago. But that was never the goal. The goal was a club band.
Well, at that point, the goal was to just start a band that you feel confident with, and you're gonna go play the clubs. That's all I knew. I didn't like. I didn't know the business. I was just a kid. I didn't really know what you had to do.
And how old were you at that time?
16.
Yeah. So tell me about looking for the band.
Well, it's just, you know, we would, and anyone who I told that to would say to me, really? How many Armenians do you know that made it? That's from my Armenian friends.
People would not be supported, or not be supported.
I had a lot of support, but obviously it's
people didn't believe it was possible.
It's a pretty far-fetched thing to, you know.
Not realistic.
How many bands actually do get there? You know, it's very
rare, very few.
You might probably be better off buying a lottery ticket or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's really rare. But I had confidence, and then one day my guitar got stolen, so I was looking for another guitar, and I went to a guitar store, and the Tracy Guns, the guitar player from LA Guns, walks into the guitar store, and I'm jamming, I'm playing. And he's like, "You're going to buy that guitar?" He goes, "I got that guitar. Come to my house and we'll see what kind of, maybe I'll give you it for a good deal or something like that." And at this time, this guy was on MTV, and you know what I mean? Like, LA Guns was doing okay. So me and my cousin, she drove me to the guitar store.
He was originally in Guns N'
Yeah,
Roses.
yeah,
Why they were called Guns N' Roses?
Yeah.
Because of Tracy Guns and Axl Rose.
I know.
But now he's in LA Guns.
So we went to his place, and my cousin asks him, she goes, "You know, my little cousin here, he's always talking about like he wants to do something in music. He wants to make it in music." She goes, "Aren't there like a zillion bands in LA that," and at this time it was like, you know, it was that. And he said, "Yeah, there are, but there's only a couple of good ones." And for me, I was like, all right.
I want to be one of those good ones.
No, I was like, I am one of those
already. Wow, that's great.
I was like, I'm almost there then. You know what I mean? In my head, I was that cocky.
That's great. That's great.
It's funny because I don't really have that in me anymore the same way. But that kid was really cool. Anyway, so, you know, okay, cool. That was that experience. And it gave me, you know, it was like, so it does matter if you're good or bad too. Yeah, some guys make it because they have connections, but if you're actually good, there's a chance.
Yeah.
You know, there's a chance.
Yeah.
So just be good. Put something together that's good. So yeah, and then, you know, life happens, and that band I was in that was sharing the rehearsal for one reason or the other didn't work out. Serge and I kind of became closer friends and started hanging out. And somewhere down the line, I didn't want to be, I really look up to people like Pete Townsend. I really look up to the guys that are like those guys in their band. I think Jerry Cantrell is one of them. You know, they sing, but they're more of like the writer or the guy who's producing what's happening. They're the guy who's kind of setting the table. And Serge at the same time wanted to become a singer, but he had never really fronted a band, or remember they asked me to sing. You know? So it was like this transition that happened where I pulled my singing back, still sang, but pulled it back. And he was trying to find himself at this time. Let's just say early Serge.
Yeah.
So anyway, this happened, and me and him meet. We stick with the bass player from my other band, but we meet this guy who's this Hawaiian drummer, who's some tall guy that played like a beast. His name was Domingo. And that's when we became Soil, which was the band before System.
So it's you, Serge, Domingo, and the bass player from your previous band.
Yeah.
Were any of the Soil songs later System songs?
Parts of them.
I see.
Like the end of Sugar, I sit in my desolate room.
Yeah.
The song Soil, dun 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 dun, that was a Soil song. Tentative, which came like on Mesmerize, Hypnotize. That riff was from the Soil days. The song wasn't the same, but that riff, I wrote Tentative with that riff in there. So once again, this was very early on in Serge's vocal, as a vocalist. So he was doing some stuff that was kind of cool, but then he was doing some stuff that I don't think we were getting yet. I wasn't, and Domingo wasn't. So Domingo really wasn't. You know, he was like, you know, he does this crazy stuff and this quacky stuff. And, you know, and I was kind of I was like 18, 19 years old at this time. This guy was much older than I was. So he was kind of more leader than I was in the situation. And so behind Serge's back, we would try out other guys. We would like tell Serge, "Hey, we're not rehearsing today." And someone else would come in and try out. Mostly because he wanted somebody else. And
Domingo wanted somebody else.
Yeah. And I kind of understood because Serge had not developed yet.
He was still green as a singer.
Yes.
He was really a keyboard player.
Yeah.
Had you ever sung together yet?
Yeah, on this track that we did called Waco Jesus. It was about David Koresh. We sang together on that track, but that never became a Soil song.
Mm-hmm.
Soil was like, the songs were not really songs. They were like, the way I always see it is System of a Down is the song version of the Soil sound.
I see.
The sound of System of a Down was kind of there.
Yeah.
Not fully, but kind of there.
Yeah. How long was Soil? How many years?
Not even years. Maybe a year.
1 year.
Maybe a year. We played one gig.
Okay. Only one gig with Soil.
Yeah. It was at this little cafe. The stage was so small that the first riff I fell off and I fell on a drum set of the other band. Like, it was like this stage was this tiny thing, and I was like, wow. And I was so hungry to be on stage, you know, and I just couldn't keep myself from just losing it, and I just accidentally fell off the stage onto a drum set. But that was our only gig. Shavo was there, and we were having a little pit. So Shavo would come into the Soil rehearsals as a friend, as like a guy that I really like what you guys are doing, man. And he was just
fan.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him a fan. He was a friend, but he liked, like, he dug the band, and he was just supportive, and he played some guitar. He wasn't really a bass player at the time. He was just playing guitar, not really as long as I had been playing, but maybe for a couple of years, and he was getting better. And through that time, I started becoming friends with Shavo, and Shavo and I started hanging out more. So anyway, we played that one gig. Domingo was from Hawaii. He decided, I guess he had a kid or something, and he moved back to Hawaii. Soil was gone. At this point, I was like, okay, Shavo and I have been really good friends, and we've been talking a lot, and we have a lot in common with, like, the heavier stuff. Like, we both like Sepultura, we both like Pantera, we both like these heavier death metal bands, So I decided to bring Shavo in, and I didn't really discuss it with anybody, but we brought Shavo in, and
He wasn't really a band yet.
Yeah,
Because the drummer left.
And after trying so many singers, I was like, none of these guys are better than Serge.
Yeah.
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 And I started appreciating some of the things that maybe I didn't appreciate early on.
Yeah.
So Serge was still there. Shavo came into the picture, and that was the beginning of System of a Down. We had the band name before we even had the, and it was, I would sit in the car with Shavo, and we would just listen to music and talk about, like, it'd be cool to start a band that's like, kind of like this, like metal, but, we'd talk a lot. And he even, like, mentioned one time, he's like, and yeah, one day we'll get Rick Rubin to produce our album. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy. Cause
It's not even a band yet.
We didn't have a drummer,
It's amazing.
Yeah. And so I was going to Valley College at the time. Not really. I was just going there to show my mom, like, oh, look, I'm doing something responsible, but I would ditch that too. But I reconnected with Andy, which was the drummer that was with the band before Soil that I was in. And we reconnected, and I was like, it didn't work out last time with him. There was some personality things going on. But I was like, maybe things have changed. We really need a drummer. He's good. I brought Andy in, and we're like, let's jam with Andy, guys. And everyone kind of knew Andy, but we were a little hesitant because we had our issues in the past. I'd known Andy since the 3rd grade. I went to elementary school with him. But once Andy came in, that's it. We just started playing. I brought in a song. I remember the first song I brought in was a song called Flake. We never played it, never recorded it. It was okay. But, I had brought in the vocals and the arrangement, and we played, and, the band started developing. I would bring in more songs, and then I would start writing with, Serge's vocals in mind. We all hung out at the studio together. We all listened to music together. We all got stoned together. Like, there's something about that that's part of the band's development when you're all listening to the same type of stuff. And once again, Serge doesn't come from the rock influence world, or metal even. I mean, his brother had a big CD collection and would listen to that stuff, but Serge not so much. And so I would always be like trying to turn Serge on to like, listen to this guy, listen to this, listen to that, and just try to open his ears to like, styles and, believe it or not, the Doors were like a big influence.
I love the Doors. I
of
wouldn't make
ours
the
at that
connection,
time.
but that's really
Well,
cool.
the spoken word stuff.
Yeah.
Like I would, like a song like War, we will fight the heathens, we
Yeah.
will fight the heathens. So I had the verse and the chorus, but for a bridge, a lot of guys would go into a guitar solo, and for me, I was like, what if we just dun, 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 and he talks over it. And so I would write these parts so it would give him space to have those spoken word moments. And then he would say, well, I wouldn't tell him what to say. He would,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
would say what he would. So, yeah. And so systems started developing, and, we started playing in clubs. We played in clubs for a while with Andy. And then the band was starting to get popular in the club scene. And I knew once I knew that was it. I knew this was the band. This was the band.
Yeah.
Like, I felt it. This is the band that I was looking for.
So much of today's life happens on the web. Squarespace is your home base for building your dream presence in an online world. Designing a website is easy, using one of Squarespace's best-in-class templates. With the built-in style kit, you can change fonts, imagery, margins, and menus, so your design will be perfectly tailored to your needs. Discover unbreakable creativity with Fluid Engine, a highly intuitive drag-and-drop editor. No coding or technical experience is required. Understand your site's performance with in-depth website analytics tools. Squarespace has everything you need to succeed online. Create a blog, monetize a newsletter, make a marketing portfolio, launch an online store. The Squarespace app helps you run your business from anywhere. Track inventory and connect with customers while you're on the go. Whether you're just starting out or already managing a successful brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create and customize a beautiful website. Visit squarespace.com/Tetra and get started today.
Did you know how far out your songs were?
I never saw that. It just came.
Because they just come to you naturally.
I think there is something abstract about System of a Down.
Yes. Metal music tends not to be an abstract form. So bringing that abstraction and Middle Eastern roots to metal changes everything. It really was. It was like nothing I ever heard before.
I mean, I think we were trying to do something that wasn't copying other people, but I'm not sure how much of it was so like intentional or,
Because it came natural to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
It's how you heard the music.
Yeah, and then the way he sang was the way he sang.
Absolutely.
And it just made for a good combination. Or, I mean, I wrote a lot of vocals myself, so the vocal style of System of a Down is a mix between me and Serge. And then somewhere down the line, things were not working out with Andy. And this was like close to when we were starting to get some interest from labels and stuff like this. And we felt like if we want to take this far, it's probably not going to happen with him in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really tough because he was a very talented guy. I'll never take that away from him. He's still alive. You know? Yeah. He is a really talented drummer, keyboard player, and he ended up becoming the singer of a band called the Apex Theory.
Cool.
Yeah. So it wasn't his talent, let's just say. And John was someone that was a guy that we shared a rehearsal studio with. So
was he in another band?
He was in another band that System and that band shared a studio with. Our drum set, his drum set were like face to face. And Shavo and I were like at our pot dealer's house. And Shavo goes to me, hey, guess what? What? Andy broke his arm. He punched a wall and he broke all the bones in his arm. And I looked at Shavo and I was like, call John. And
had you ever played with John before?
Yeah, just jamming.
Yeah.
I knew he was a good drummer. I know he could handle it. He was a different drummer than Andy.
Yeah.
Not as loose as Andy, but more solid, dependable, strong.
Yeah.
That's when I think of John's drumming, it's solid. It's strong. It doesn't wave.
No.
You know?
He's super solid.
Yeah.
Super solid.
Yeah.
And groovy, too.
Yeah. And apparently John was like, before you guys called me, he goes, every single one of you had a conversation with me saying that this might happen. because things were kind of...
The writing was on the wall that Andy was not going to make it.
Yeah, it was just looking that way.
Yeah.
And first rehearsal, John knew a lot of our songs already because he had been there for our rehearsals, listening to them. Yeah. He'd probably been there in some times when we were like writing them, just hanging out, because the studio for us was a place where
was the hangout
for both bands, for all the guys.
Yeah.
So he caught on to it right away. That was kind of towards the end of the Sunset Strip, transitioning into getting signed.
Mm-hmm. So the first album was called System of a Down. 1998. Which song would be representative of this era of System?
Sweet Pea, Sugar, War, Pluck. More of the heavy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think the goal at that time was play the clubs and start a pit. You know what I mean? Be heavy, be unique, but be heavy, you know? And
to get the energy, to get the response from the audience?
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's hear Sweet Pea.
See, for me, that just came naturally. Like when that part, dun 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 dun, it was just like, it should go into this. I don't know. I can't tell you why, or it just, you're in your little trance, and it just goes that way, you know?
And I can see a Doors-like moment. You know what it's not, it doesn't sound like the Doors, but I understand the connection in that change. And the dynamics of the vocals also would be something you might hear in the Doors. Really funny to me.
You know, and some people You always tell the story of like when you first saw us, you were laughing or there are some guys in bands that might take offense to that.
Yeah.
I like that there is a sense of humor in System of a Down's music.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's emotion and you're trying to cover different emotions, not just one. And sense of humor is something I think a lot of guys can't pull off. A lot of bands can't pull off sense of humor. You don't hear it too much, sense of humor in rock music. And Zappa maybe had a little bit of some funny.
But it's also the combination of how hard it is and how quirky it is that makes it funny. It's so extremely hard. And it goes from seemingly light vocal ideas to these screaming vocal ideas right next to each other. The juxtapositions are wild. It makes me laugh listening to it just like the first time I saw you.
I think it's just what, like I said, none of it was done to like on purpose. I think it just the combination of my writing and whatever vocal style I have mixed with Serge's vocal style and the influences that we had, and our influences were heavy bands or like Cannibal Corpse and things like this, but we also had influences like the Beatles, the Doors, and Armenian and ethnic, and we all grew up around that kind of stuff. So there was stuff in our roots that I don't think were in the roots of other bands, and it was done in an honest way. There's some bands that mix ethnic stuff with metal, but it's like, okay, we're playing metal, and then it goes into the ethnic part, and it's not a mutation that, like, it should belong. Like when two people have a child and you see the characteristic of one parent and the other parent, and like...
It makes something new.
But it sounds like...
It's not this thing combined with this thing, and we do the A part for a while, and then we shift to the B part for a while. It's more like...
They belong together.
Together, they're making a new thing.
Yes.
And that new thing we have not heard before. I've not heard it before.
Yes. That's what I'm mostly proud of if I accomplish that as a writer, and the band accomplishes that as a band, that it sounds like we're bringing worlds together, but these worlds belong together.
Mm.
They weren't forced to be together so we can be the band that mixes all that stuff together. You know what I mean?
Do you remember anything about writing Sweet Pea?
Again, in my room at my parents' house, I had vocal phrasing, but I didn't have the words and the So when I brought the song into the band, it was probably like, something like that.
Yeah.
And
you had the phrasing, but not the lyrics.
Yeah. Probably for the choruses, and Serge kind of went off and did his thing in the verses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I brought in. But like when I wrote the song itself, I can't remember exactly what. Just trying to be drivey, trying to be heavy, trying to start a pit. Like in those little guitar things that I sometimes did it in those days, probably more than I would in these days, or even later on in the band, just little intros like it was almost like the tiny explodes into,
it really does.
It's like it's pushing.
The heavy part is so much heavier coming after that.
Yeah.
If it just started after the intro,
yeah,
it wouldn't have the same effect at all.
Yeah, it makes it crazy.
Yes.
It makes it zany.
Yes.
And I think that's what we were going for.
Yeah.
That's what I was at least going for. And we were that at that time. Remember what we used to look like at that time? It matched the music in a way. We all were very theatrical, very, very made up. We looked kind of like not from this planet in a way at that time. So it all kind of matched the way we looked, matched our music, matched the live show, matched the way we moved on stage. We were very
And then tell me about
spazzed out.
the album comes out, going on tour. What was the experience like of first album comes out?
I could only speak for myself. Everything that I said I wanted to happen for myself, because I can't speak for Serge, I can't speak for Joe, but just for myself, as where I wanted my life to go, was starting to happen. And I felt a lot of pressure, especially being the guy who's like, the main writer in the situation. I was having a lot of panic attacks all of a sudden. Just being at the movie theater. 1 second I'm laughing, next second, like my hands, my palms. I remember once we were playing at the Whiskey, I turned pale and they called the ambulance. My heart started beating really fast. And I was just having I didn't even know what a panic attack was, but I was getting them. And I had never left home before. Things that I wanted to happen were happening, and that was positive. But once again, I was how old was I? Like 22, 23 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really young. I hadn't experienced the world. I was a kid. And so, yeah, I had to kind of learn how to meditate.
What do you think the pressure was about?
Here's your chance.
I see. You didn't want to blow it.
I didn't want to blow it. And that kind of stayed through the albums too. Like where it was just, I wasn't getting the panic attacks, but I just always, I really didn't want to blow it. I knew how important the second record was. And I was already thinking about the second record when the first record was coming out, We went on tour with Slayer. I mean, I had Slayer on my fucking wall in my headphones in Iraq, And now I'm on the bus with Tom and Carrie and hanging out with Slayer. And then we're on the Ozfest. And there's Ozzy. I used to have dreams where Ozzy was having dinner with me and my parents when I was like 8 years old. I was always obsessed with these people. I was a big fan. I had a lot of respect. And so there I am in the same room, and I have an album out the way they do. And also it felt like, okay, now we're being looked at with the bands that have albums out, not just like the Sunset Strip bands anymore. So I never looked at it as like competitors, but the bands that you're surrounded with now are the top bands in the world.
Yeah.
So that felt like pressure, but I didn't feel like I didn't belong. I was I think we're good, man. Like, play after us.
Historically, opening for Slayer is a tough slot because Slayer audiences are probably the least open to hearing anyone but Slayer.
Yeah.
How was the experience for you?
I kind of played the heel like in wrestling.
Yeah.
And I would like mock them if they weren't yelling Slayer. If they weren't chanting Slayer during our thing, I would start them and I would say, "You're not big enough Slayer fans. You're not chanting Slayer." And that's how I played it. And I think it worked with them because all those same places we came back and we headlined pretty soon after that.
Amazing. And do you feel like by the end of the set, the Slayer audience was accepting most of the time?
Some of them. I mean, we didn't, because, the way we looked was not Slayer audience.
Not necessarily Slayer friendly.
No. And the way we sounded.
Yeah. That's as difficult of a gig as you can possibly do.
It's like heavy metal boot camp if you were, at that time especially too.
Yeah. First time I saw Slayer was with Anthrax, Megadeth. I can't remember who the fourth band was. And from the beginning, before the first band went on, the crowd was chanting Slayer through all three bands until Slayer got on stage for hours. Slayer, Slayer. It was insane.
No, it was stuff of legend. Those Slayer shows in the earlier, even before our time with them. Like, you would read about it in magazines, and people get hurt in the pits, and it was intimidating. Slayer was intimidating.
The most.
The audience was intimidating.
Yes.
The band was intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah.
So wild. I'm so glad you got to do it.
Well,
Makes
you
good.
had a lot to do with that.
But it really makes you good, like standing up to that challenge.
U.S. and Europe.
Amazing.
Our first tour in the U.S. and our first tour in Europe, And the Europe was a little tougher.
Yeah.
There was one show, I think it was in Germany, where we played the same place 2 nights in a row. We used to open our set with No on the first record. It starts with drums and anyway. So we play the song, nothing.
No response.
Crickets. And we just kept playing our set.
Yeah.
The next day I came to the band and I said, if the same thing happens after No, John, start No again. And we're going to play No until you cheer. And we're going to play that same fucking song.
Wow.
We didn't have to play it more than twice, but we played it twice.
Yeah.
And they cheered after the second time.
Yeah. You challenged them.
Yeah. And that's kind of how that went with the Slayer shit. It's like, fuck you. You know, like.
Amazing.
It was kind of like that.
You weren't intimidated by the audience. I mean, in real life,
there was this venue we played once in Portugal that they told us if they don't like you, they throw syringes at you. So we walk into this place and the roof has a bunch of syringes on the roof of the place. People like throwing them up there and they've stuck up there. So I wore long sleeves and you're going up there and nobody threw syringes at us. But imagine like that's
pretty rough.
And then in Poland, they hated us once. That's kind of a more historic kind of system show where we get there and there's an audience and there's dudes in the front with like SS fucking signs and just intimidating, and they weren't having it. They didn't like us very much and they started throwing things at us. Yeah, and Serge was like, turn on the lights, turn on the lights. And then they threw a bagel at Serge and it hit Serge and they were throwing coins at me. And then I was kind of playing it where I would pick up the coins and I would like put them in my pocket and I was blowing kisses at the SS guys. But Serge kind of like took it to another, and I'm like, oh no, this isn't good. Like, you're not going to be able to fight with thousands of people, man. So he was like, turn on the lights. Who threw that? Who did that? And the bagel came flying at him. And that was the Poland show. These are all places we've gone back and now we're like headliners, but like,
amazing.
We had some shows that in Europe that not everybody understood us right away.
Did you know that when you went back it was going to be okay? Or not until you went back?
We were headlining the next time around the smaller theaters, so it wasn't with Slayer. So,
and then next time you went back, people are singing along with every word?
It was more of an accepting audience. Yeah, it was like the London Astoria. The first time we played with Slayer, the next time we went there, it was our show.
Great.
And the crowd was amped. Like, you know, we started selling 1,000-seaters, 1,500.
Still on the first album or not?
The
till
first
the second
album.
one?
No,
still on the first album.
Yeah.
So you went around 2 times on the first album, dealt with the Slayer audience, and then went back and all good.
Yeah. More accepting.
Yeah,
we were growing.
Yeah.
And the word was going out and we were building our fan base.
The human foot is a true marvel of engineering. With 26 bones, 33 joints, and over 100 muscles and tendons, it's built for flexibility, balance, and natural movement. Unfortunately, today's narrow, rigid, elevated shoes undermine this natural brilliance and weaken your feet. Vivo barefoot shoes set your feet free. Feel every step. Move naturally. Allow your feet to function as nature intended with Vivo barefoot. Thin, flexible soles to keep you connected to the ground. Wide toe boxes to let your toes spread and stabilize. Minimalist shoes designed to mimic the barefoot experience. Whether you're running, hiking, or just going about your day, Vivo Barefoot has you covered precisely when and where you need it most. Feel the vibration of the earth. Strengthen your feet. Improve your posture. Enhance your natural movement with Vivo Barefoot. Made from 100% recycled and natural materials, they are as healthy for the planet as they are for you. Experience the freedom of barefoot movement with the protection from the sharp edges of a man-made world. Natural movement for your feet sustainable choices for our world. Learn more at vivobarefoot.com/tetra and embrace your human nature.
Who were the other bands in the scene at the time that you were coming up? Who would have been the contemporaries?
I mean, Korn was doing their thing. Deftones were doing their thing. I guess it's the scene that people like to call new metal.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people see System of a Down as new metal. We don't really see it that way.
Mm-hmm.
I like the word alternative metal maybe more.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're a little more experimental.
I think so
and
too.
we were taking things. We had songs like Spiders, Aerials, Atwa that had weren't necessarily metal influences. They could have been psychedelic influences and different kinds of rock influences. So bands we played with in LA, some of them got signed. Static X, Cold Chamber. Again, bands that you put into the new metal. But it just so happens that we were around at the same time and we came in through the same scene as they did. But I never felt like we really sounded like. I like those bands. All the bands I just mentioned, I think are a really good bands.
Yeah.
But I don't think we really sounded like them. I feel like we were doing something a little detached.
So the second album is Toxicity, 2001. What would you say was different about this album than the first album?
Vocal harmonies. First album, I had a couple vocal parts. On our demos, I had, there was a song called Damn where I sang the whole song. So me singing in the band was not something foreign to the band.
Mm-hmm.
But in Chop Suey, and there was just more vocal. Serge and I started doing more vocal harmonies with on Atwa, Aerials.
Which one would be a good one to demonstrate?
I love Atwa.
Great.
I wrote it about Charles Manson. Atwa was his environmental thing. But this new metal bands were not doing this.
Yeah.
You see me, pictures crazy, all the world I've seen before.
These type of harmonies.
I've got nothing to gain, to lose. All the world I've seen before me passing by. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore.
And it felt very natural for me to go into this after that. There was nothing weird about it to me.
Yeah.
Or to us as a band. That's like Simon and Garfunkel, na 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 na,
Not so pretty. All the world I've seen before me passing by. Silent my voice. I've got no choice. All the world I've seen before me passing by. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore. You don't care about how I feel. I don't feel it anymore.
Totally normal, nothing to see here.
It's so funny, man.
And when we did interviews and people would be like, your time signature, this, that, and none of us are really schooled musicians, so we're not
Just feel it.
Yeah, we just feel that time signature or that whatever it's going into. And it's just, to me, it's just a emotional, nice song.
It is.
All the world I've seen before me passing by, it's just.
All the world I've seen before me passing
I knew that I was gonna start singing more as time went on. I didn't want to overdo it, so there was room for growth.
Yeah, the band developed over time, and one of the developments was you got to sing more. You got
Yes.
to sing harmony. If you listen to the first System album, the idea of the next album having vocal harmony, you wouldn't imagine it. Do you know what I'm saying? Because it's so
heavy
that you don't associate harmony in that kind of music.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any super heavy music that has harmony. I don't know.
Or that kind of harmony.
Yeah.
Garfunkel, Simon Garfunkel type of harmony.
Yeah.
It's just, it's what I like to listen to. And it just kind of comes out naturally out of the writing when you don't put limitations and walls and say, well, this has to be heavy, or we just got to be hard.
Yeah.
It all complements each other. And I think
even more, they amplify each other. It's like the hard sections seem insane coming after the Simon and Garfunkel part. Simon and Garfunkel part's nice song going along, maybe moody, but then
it gives you a break from the hard too,
Yeah,
lets
but
you
then
sit
the
back.
hard comes in and it's wild, and then we go back to Simon and Garfunkel, and then it gets hard again, but then it gets really hard, where it already seemed too hard for what came before it. Now it goes to the next extreme. It's exciting because I don't know any other music that works like this. The dynamics are so extreme. And in a way, it almost seems like it shouldn't work, but it does.
And everybody in the band has to be versatile. John can't just be a heavy metal drummer. John is a very versatile drummer.
Yeah.
Serge just can't be a heavy metal singer.
Mm-mm.
I can't just be a heavy metal writer. Everyone in the band has to have broad taste and open mind for it to come off and be played as musicians.
Yeah.
Where it works, where the style works. I know a lot of great heavy metal drummers, but they're one-trick pony, and they play that stuff really great, but probably wouldn't work on songs that I write because I need you to go from place to place.
Yeah.
And sometimes very quickly.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me about the experience of this album coming out and going on tour for Toxicity.
We were bigger. Chop Suey comes out. Next thing you know, we're walking in the malls and kids recognize us. That life changed after that, I guess you can say. MTV was still playing videos at that time, and they were heavy rotation of Chop Suey.
Do you remember anything about writing Chop Suey?
Yeah, I was either we were still in an RV or I was in the back of the bus, and I had a guitar, and that's pretty much where the main...
Can you grab the guitar and show me what came first?
Two parts. The intro came first. Once again, this is probably not tuned correctly, but I'm just... That came first. Now, I can't remember if I did this or if I just went into... I don't remember what came first after that, but those parts pretty much came together. The vocal came very natural. Well, the vocal pretty much walks with the... My lyrics were different. It was, wake up, tell me what you think about tomorrow. Is it gonna be a pain and sorrow? Tell me what you think about the people. Is there gonna be another sequel? That was my original lyrics. But I wasn't married to him.
Yeah.
Serge pretty much sang, he didn't change the song. So I was like, so he sang that.
And then Serge put in the repeat vocals.
You wanted to, that?
Well, wake up.
Oh, yeah. No, Serge took it to that other place.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
And I loved it. It was,
Yeah.
you know,
It was, I never heard anything like that either. It was so unusual. I remember not even knowing what to make of it. It was so unusual.
yeah. I didn't think it was going to be the song that it was going to be. I mean, it's our most popular song. It's the song that introduced the world to us, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But that whole just in my that kind of just flowed out of me. The lyrics just flowed out of me. And the lyrics meaning for me was how see, I'm not sure the verse matches what my lyrics are saying. But the lyrics for me was how, you know, people judge people on how they die. Like, for example, if you died of cancer, poor guy. But if you died of a drug overdose, oh, you know, you had it coming. It's like how people are judgmental. I cry when angels deserve to die. It's like how people are judgmental even in someone's death, you know. So that's what my lyrics meant. Wake up, grab a brush, put a little makeup. Till this day, I'm not sure where that comes from and what that really means, but it fit really well. And you know, it is what it is. It's what became the song. And then this middle part, I think you have the story of where you guys, I wasn't there, but
Yeah, in the library pulling down.
well, there was no vocals there because all I had was Father, 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 Father. That's all I had. I didn't have the whole.
Yeah.
I think you and Serge put that together with the Bible and.
Yeah, whatever book, I don't even know if it was a Bible. Whatever book it was, he pulled down and just randomly picked it, but that did happen.
Yeah. And so that's how that part came about.
Yeah.
And there you have it. You have Chop Suey, and it's our most famous song, the one that people recognize the most from System of a Down. And it came to me all in back when we were, I don't know where we were driving through, but we were on tour, and I was just sitting in the back playing guitar, and that's where it came from.
Let's hear it.
Rolling Suicide.
Oh, and it was called Suicide before.
Some interesting chords going on that add like orchestration. It makes the part much bigger.
I was doing a lot of layering and experimenting with layering during Toxicity recording.
Wake up! Run, rush, and put a little makeup. I discuss the fade away, the shake up. Why'd you leave the keys up on the table? Here you go, create another fable. You wanted to. Grab a brush and put a little makeup. You wanted to. I discuss the fade away, the shake up.
I think you might have been the you wanted to though. Really?
I don't remember.
Really?
I don't remember.
Because you would make suggestions like that.
Self-righteous suicide. I cry when angels deserve to die. Wake up! Grab brush and put a little makeup. I discuss the fade away. Why'd you leave the keys upon the table?
I mean, like I said, I would have never thought that this was going to be the single or.
I remember I played this for Tom Morello, and he's like, that's crazy person me.
Self-righteous suicide.
Again, the vocal harmonies.
When angels deserve to die.
Harmony is so good.
Serge and I have very different voices.
They work so good together.
It's a hot and cold type of thing, I think.
It's so hard.
And that riff underneath,
Yeah.
every time I hear it, it's there's a death metal band called Obituary.
You remind you of that?
Yeah, I'm like, that's where you did that. That's why you played that. You love Obituary.
This part's incredible too. Incredible.
But see, these are your ideas, though.
Really?
I think so, because you would always kind of tell us like it has to end off like big and dramatic, and this does this like, and so you would kind of lead us into these kinds of big outro emotional things.
It worked. Whatever it is, it worked. I don't remember any details, but I just remember like
I don't remember.
Flowered.
I don't remember details either,
Yeah.
but I remember the kind of suggestions that you would make to us and how they would change the songs.
Yeah.
And that was one of them. How the endings would be this grand thing instead of just singing the chorus all over again. Like let's sing it.
Giving a reason to have another chorus at the end.
Yeah,
and
and
making
sing it in a
feel-
more dramatic and bigger
finale.
Yes.
Mm.
Yes.
Any other developments during that period of the band between albums 2 and 3?
I think as a writer, I was starting to get into more, not necessarily starting pits, but trying to be heavy in different ways.
Uh-huh.
So for me as a writer, I think I was transitioning into that. And I also felt like as we were going along, Serge wanted to sing more, and you pushed him more into that
He got
direction
to be
as
a
well.
really good singer.
Yes,
Like, I remember on the first album, it was hard for him to sing the songs. And I remember live seeing the band in those days. His performance was great, but his singing wasn't yet great. But by being on the road so much, he turned into a great singer.
And great performer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the voice like really took on this like operatic quality that wasn't really there in the beginning. In the beginning, it was more quirky and yelling.
Yes, and growling and yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't have predicted it in advance. I wouldn't know that it was going to happen.
Yeah, so I was aware of that, and he never told me like, you know, I don't want to growl or anything, but I could feel like he was going more into singing than screaming, and he wasn't as aggro and angry. It was the third album was, the thing is, I would write so many songs for all these albums that we'd ended up having either a third album or the double album.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't bring in that many songs, we would probably only had 3 records.
Yeah.
Because we only had 3 recording sessions.
Yeah.
First, Toxicity and Mesmerize and Hypnotize.
Yeah.
So third album was Steal This Album. So that was stuff that we didn't put on Toxicity that we thought was still good. But then remember, somebody had leaked it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why we called it Steal This Album.
What's a good song representative of this?
Oh, there's so much stuff here. I mean, I wouldn't say it's representative of the album, but this song right here. And who was doing, I don't know, like our bands around us and weren't
Nobody's
doing
doing
this. I mean, this doesn't show you what the album is, but this tune.
I have a problem that I cannot explain. I have no reason why it should have been.
It's not heavy metal. It never gets heavy at all.
Questions, but I sure have excuse.
So, like I said, trying to be heavy in different ways.
I know how I feel when I'm around you. I don't know how I feel when I'm around you.
Mellotron. I think that's in Mellotron.
Beautiful harmony.
Left a message, but it in a bit of use.
Now, this is a song that I wrote and could have sang myself, but I was still in a place where I was like, didn't want to go full on yet.
Yeah.
You know? And Serge changed the lyrics to this song from what I originally had, but once again, if I'm not married to it, not changing or hurting the song.
No. And if the person who's singing the song isn't connected to the words, it won't be good.
Absolutely.
Don't know how I feel when I'm around you.
I forgot that I had a solo part in this song. I haven't listened to this for years. I forgot that was there.
Beautiful. The phrasing's very Middle Eastern. Da-da-dun.
Greek,
Greek.
very Greek-like.
Yeah.
Bouzouki-like.
Yeah.
I know how I feel when I'm
But there was more heavier stuff on this, like a song like Inner Vision
how I feel.
could have been on Toxicity. We just didn't want to make Toxicity that long,
Yeah,
but
let's listen to interview.
second song. Very Middle Eastern as well. This riff.
Will I have a home, longing to roam? I have to find you, I have to meet you. Signs of your face.
Let's see, we're moving into directions that are not ja 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 ja. You know what I mean? We're going into different places now.
More melodic and more experimental.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this song a lot.
Your sacred silence, losing all violence.
Another one is there's Highway song that's on this album. That's another good one.
I need to find you. I need to seek my inner
Mr. Jack.
That's rad.
It's never too late to reinvent the bicycles, power breaks, more energy. I'm giving you true path in life. The road that leads to all leads to one. There's only one true path in life. The road that leads to all vision, inner vision. Your sacred silence, losing all violence.
They come quick. Let's hear a little of the Highway song.
I feel the love. You love to love the fear. I never wanna be alone. I've forgotten to. The road keeps moving the clouds. The clouds become unreal. I guess I'll always be at home. Do you want me to try? Directing your night. An exit lights the sky. The sky becomes complete. Traveling hearts divide the throne. I've forgotten to. Friction lines
another song, like I said,
Yeah.
in a more emotional, heavy direction. Although the chugging is there, the heavy's there,
But still more like dancey chuggy. It's not metally.
yeah.
More bouncy, dancey.
I remember when I wrote this song, I had Depeche Mode in mind.
Depeche Mode.
Yeah. It was like, I don't know that.
Pick up the guitar and show me the
Well, I mean,
Depeche Mode version.
like, I just, in my head, I was thinking, like, if the guy from Depeche Mode was singing, like, I don't know, it might not be Depeche Mode to everyone else, but in my head, that kind of what,
you visualized it.
that's kind of what brought the kind of dark, if you had like synthesizer, I don't know, I could hear it. Maybe, I don't know if you can, but I can hear
I can.
You know, thinking the way he sings. I don't know, I don't want to sing like the guy from Depeche Mode, but just these chords kind of took me there. And then there's this part where it goes, that part came from, remember there used to be like freestyle music, dance music, like Timmy T, and in my head there was a lot of synth going on on that song, but there's no synth at all in the recording. But when I was writing
You wrote it, you were envisioning synths.
Yes.
Cool. The groovy part, the dancey part, is that the same?
It's just the same chords that changes the way I play it.
I see.
Dude, like, you know, if you had like a 909 or some kind of kick like that going like that. In my head, that's what was happening when I wrote that. But then, you know, you play it with a rock band, you play it with a guitar. And
But it's cool because envisioning those sounds inspired you to write a different song than you would write if you were writing a song for a metal band.
Yeah.
So it becomes new music.
Different
again.
inspirations, different colors.
Yeah.
You know?
And then did you guys tour this album?
No.
It just came out.
No. Yeah, we just put it out. And like I said, we put it out because someone leaked those songs and they put out versions that we didn't necessarily like. So we went to your place, remember, and we kind of redid some of them, rearranged some of them.
Yeah.
Did new vocals on some of them.
We recorded all the songs. For Toxicity, we recorded them all and then kind of narrowed down the ones that were going to be on the album, or maybe the ones that were most likely going to be on the album, still probably more than were actually on the album.
Yeah.
And then we would refine those. So the songs from Steal This Album weren't completed, certainly not to the mix stage.
No.
But they were tracked.
They were born during that time.
Yeah, because they hadn't done all the overdubs or probably all the singing.
Mm-hmm. Or even like mellotrons and different.
The overdubs.
Yeah.
Then next is Mesmerize and Hypnotize. Any memories of that time in the band?
Well, I had just moved into a new house because Toxicity was I still live there, actually. I've been living there for 23 years. That's where I did a lot of, you know, I wrote a lot of that stuff in the living room. But it was, you know, an interesting time because just the dynamic in the band had changed.
Do you think just because of success or something else?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe success had something to do with it. Well, Serge's heart wasn't into it the same way.
Why do you think that was?
I think the way we picked System songs to be on the record is we had a list of songs It was very democratic, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. The best songs won, always.
Yeah, well, I can't tell you which one to pick. I can't tell John which one to pick, but it just so happens that a lot of the ones that were picked were songs that I brought in. And nothing was ever done in, like, no one's trying to hurt anybody. It was just, in my head, I don't care who wrote what song. I just wanted the best songs and the songs that worked together and made that album. You know, I just wanted the best for the band, best for the album. And, you know, we were just in a weird place where we had a member that was just kind of not along with it the same way that he was before, you know. Like, I don't want to say the wrong thing, because you say something and then all of a sudden it becomes this, Daron said this, you know what I mean? But trying to be really careful with my words. But I felt pressure because I was like, I don't, it's a very tough time to explain for me.
Tell me about what you remember about the recording.
That was fine. We were at your house on Laurel Canyon House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where Blood Sugar Sex Magic was made.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember you had an idea to fill the room that was going to have your guitar amp and the acoustic guitar work done. We put
like a wall of acoustic guitars.
Of acoustic guitars.
Yeah. I just was experimenting because...
What was the thought?
Well, I would go to the Guitar Center, and when I'd play an amp in their vintage room, everything sounded so good in there. And I saw this, they had this wall of acoustic guitars, and I would be thinking, there's got to be something about the sound going through those guitars.
Like a resonance,
some kind of resonance. And that's what I got, kind of like this kind of twangy resonance out of my guitar. So I wanted to try that with the guitars.
It was a really cool idea. I never had experimented with anything like that.
It's a very subtle thing that happened with it, with the guitars, but it gave me a little bit more twang, a little bit more cut out of the guitars.
But a cool idea.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just trying to experiment with stuff based on that.
Anything in terms of the writing process that was different or next level?
Well, you were really pushing us to not repeat ourselves. I remember during Mesmerize and Hypnotize, when we showed you something that kind of sounded like something that would belong on Toxicity, you would look at us and say, we did that already.
Yeah.
So I was trying to take my writing to a place where we were just trying new things, not even necessarily metal. You had songs like Violent Pornography, Radio Video, that were very much System songs. Sounds like System, but something that System never did before. And that's why those two records, Mesmerize and Hypnotize, sound a bit different than the others, because it was really you pushing us to go to other places and not be afraid to go to other places, you know? And
not be limited by the past.
Yeah, not be limited by whatever we did before. And you know, a song like BYOB, like I showed you earlier, went from like metal to this fucking P-funk chorus, back to metal, into punk rock. Like, they're very experimental songs that still fit in the world of System of a Down, but they're just done in kind of a different way.
Yeah. Should we listen to Radio Video?
Yeah.
Is it a good one?
Yeah. I love playing this song live too. This song always comes off live, and it's dancey, it's quirky, it's happy. I can't compare it to any other song I have ever written, or I can't compare it to anyone else's song either.
Hey man, look at me rocking.
not metal at all. I think I was also going into less of a metal and more into a rock direction with the band. And even with Scars even went even farther into a rock. And so as my writing has gone along, I've gone more into a rock direction with my writing through the years.
Hey man, look at me rocking now. I'm on the video with Danny and Lisa. They take me away.
Who are Danny and Lisa?
They were my friends, my neighbors growing up in Hollywood. They lived across from me, just random. It was almost like, look, can you see me now? Like, look, like I'm in this fucking band. Like, look where I don't know where they are, but they were just somebody I remember from my childhood. And it's almost like if they could only see me now, you know, like I'm on the radio, I'm on the video.
Take me away from, hey man, look at me rocking now. I'm on the radio.
Gotta have that.
Hey man, look at me rocking now. I'm on the radio with Danny and Lisa. They take me away from the strangest places. Sweet Danny and Lisa.
The only reggae groove in the history of System of a Down.
I'd have to, is it?
I think so. Memorable solo, simple, memorable, melodic.
That's the way I like to solo if I'm gonna solo as a guitar player. Another thing about it gets faster and faster and faster. That's another thing we used to, like with Sugar, it gets faster and faster. And so tempo, fucking with tempo.
It could also be something in folk music where the songs would kind of build and people would dance and spin.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey man, look at me rocking now. I'm on the radio. Hey man, look at me rocking.
But once again, you were pushing us to go into different places. And I was trying to do that without losing our identity.
Yeah, and it still doesn't sound like anybody but System.
Yeah, and I had a guy who didn't really want to be there, to be honest with you. So there was a lot of shit going on. I can't say he didn't want to be there, but his heart wasn't into it the same way, you know?
It's great. So we recorded Mesmerize and Hypnotize at the same time. How did we release them? Same time or?
No, they were, I don't even know if the double album was planned or anything at first, but they were released like months apart. And then the Soldier Side intro, that's one thing I love about this record or those two records is where it starts with the Soldier Side intro into BYOB.
Yeah.
And then the second record ends with the Soldier Side complete.
Full song.
And it bookends.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that was really planned. That kind of came when it was like, oh, we're going to do a double album.
Yeah.
And it kind of came to me where it was like, that'd be a really cool way to bring them both together. And
yeah. Let's listen to Soldier Side.
My uncle is in this song a lot because he was a soldier in Iraq.
I see.
And so when I wrote this song, he was still in Iraq, and the second time America bombed them. A lot of these stuff I wrote around that time. BYOB.
Wondering when Savior comes, is he gonna be saved? Maybe you're a sinner into your alternate life. Maybe you're a joker, maybe you deserve to die. They were crying when their sons left. God is wearing black. He's gone so far to find no He's come so far to find the truth. He's never going home. Young men standing on the top of their own grave.
And so we went from the first record
Yeah.
to this. It's a long ways away.
Wild evolution
Yeah.
in 3 recording sessions,
Yes.
really.
Maybe you're a mourner, maybe you deserve to die. They were crying when their sons left. God is wearing black. He's gone so far to find no hope. He's never coming back. They were crying when their sons left. All young men must go. He's come so far to find the truth. He's never going home.
Really cinematic. It's like watching a movie.
I just think as the time went along, the songwriter in me came out more in these records than
Yeah.
writing metal songs, but
Yeah.
just more like singer-songwriter kind of song. I remember when I wrote Lost in Hollywood
Yeah.
and I brought in the song and you told me it's not finished. And I'm like, what does he mean it's not finished? Like, you know, so it was just the beginning. But just you saying that, and I still tell this story, is you just had to say that to me. And then I went home that night and I wrote the whole second part of the song, which made it like this whole became more epic. And you just made that one suggestion of saying it just sounds like it's not finished yet.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that though, man. Like you would pull things out that I didn't know were there.
Yeah. We all were working together to make the best thing it could possibly be, whatever that was, through loving it and honestly talking about it, whatever came up.
Yeah.
Let's listen a little bit of that.
Okay, there's like heavier stuff on this record, but for me, these songs
Yeah.
are the ones that I like the most because it was going into different places. If I'm sad about anything about not making more records with System, it's that we never got the chance to evolve even
To
more,
see what would be
to go
next.
farther.
Yeah.
You're crazy. Those vicious streets are filled with strays. You should have never gone to Hollywood. They find you to time you. Say you're the best they've ever seen. You should have never trusted Hollywood.
The harmony is so cool, the notes.
So I only had this
Yeah.
when I first brought it in.
I wrote you and told you you were the biggest fish out here. You should have never gone
This is the part that I went home and wrote after you told me it wasn't
So
finished.
beautiful.
I was standing on the wall, feeling 10 feet tall. All you maggots smoking fags on Santa Monica Boulevard. This is my front page. This is my new age. All you bitches, put your hands in the air and wave 'em like you just don't care. All you maggots smoking fags out.
It kind of gives me this vibe of all the young dudes. Okay, like
Yeah.
it has this like open.
Yeah.
Put your hands in the air and wave 'em like you just
Can't stand it.
Yeah. But to me, this is heavy. It was very heavy in emotion.
Absolutely.
And as the band went along, I think we would have gone more into this place and maybe not as metal and not
Yeah.
as, you know. Chili Peppers kind of started with the funk, but as they went along, they changed into a different direction.
So cool.
I think we were capable of doing that.
For
I'm
sure.
not sure a lot of bands are capable of
Right.
letting.
You already made the transition from metal to experimental music and didn't lose System of a Down.
Yes.
And that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And within the realm of experimental music, there's a lot of places to go.
Yeah.
fags out there on Sunset Boulevard.
Really anthemic, beautiful part.
All you maggots smoking fags out there on Hollywood Boulevard.
It's just the songs about like when I was a kid, I ride my bike and you'd see people sitting at the bus stop, or there was a lot of prostitution where I grew up. I mean, right in front of my apartment, there was a motel and it was all prostitution going on. And all those pictures are in my head when I sing this song or when I wrote this song, was just all the people that I grew up seeing, didn't know them, but just grew up seeing in the streets of Hollywood that either came here with a dream or, you know, but it's a lot of my childhood is in this song. And I was born in Hollywood, you know, so like you come
So
to
you
Hollywood,
got to see these sad stories.
just some sad, some not sad, I don't know, but just the how did that person end up in this place? You know, I would be riding my bike around the block and how did these people end up here? You know?
Two interesting stats that I never made the connection before. So I never thought of it as 5 albums, even though it is 5 albums. And you mentioned the Doors. The Doors only made 5 albums.
Yeah.
And System only made 5 albums. And then the other one is System's entire recording career was over 7 years. And the Beatles' entire recording career was only 7 years. They made 13 albums in the 7 years, but it's still 7 years.
Yeah.
It's just interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm proud of the records. Like I said, I don't live with any regret or anything like that, but it would have been nice to see where the band would have evolved if we kept putting music out. If we put out an album now, it's just so far away from when we did this.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't continue the story to me.
Yeah, it feels like starting a new story, really.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, like there was a time that might have been something I wanted.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how much I want that
understood.
anymore. I don't, you know, I'm sure people won't be too happy to hear that from me, but yeah, I'm not at the same place where I was
Understood.
maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, but then again, maybe that's the place to be that allows it to happen.
You can't predict where you're going to be and how you're going to feel.
impossible.
But yeah, man, I mean, I think we, for a short period of time that we had in a few recording sessions, we did evolve quite a bit.
Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
So
a lot of growth and a lot of material in a short period of time. Loads of songs.
yeah. Yeah. And we actually had even more left over from those sessions.
Maybe someday.
If that did ever happen, I might want to go back and look at them again and maybe.
Yeah, but the same thing happened with
Steal.
Steal This Album.
Yeah, it would be that kind of thing.
Finishing them, essentially.
Yeah, there's a reason why they weren't on
Yeah.
the record. They just weren't as good.
Yeah.
In some way, they had good parts, but maybe not good completely.
Mhm.
You know, so you never know.
How would you say your relationship to music has changed over the course of your life?
I was writing albums at this time. Now I release stuff with Scars, but Scars has 2 records out, and I have a new one coming next year.
Mhm.
But I write kind of at my pace now, and I write for me, and then I choose to put it out when I want to put it out.
Mhm.
There's no there isn't as much pressure.
Yeah, but you still continue writing.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
just what you do.
No, I have tons of songs that nobody's ever heard.
Mhm.
That-
And you continue adding to that list.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I do have quite a bit of material that no one's heard. Some will work with Systems, some will work with Scars.
Mhm.
But at this point, they're probably all going to end up going to Scars at some point.
Mhm.
I mean, there was a time where I held on to them
Yeah.
because I was like, okay, we might get back into, we might need these songs. And I've just kind of held on to songs through the years because thinking maybe, and when that time comes, we're going to need these songs,
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, I've just kind of held on to music and enjoyed it myself. And like I said, I would be doing it if there wasn't a fan base or, there'd be something missing in my life if
Yeah.
I wasn't still writing and playing and
What's your experience of playing live now?
with System or Scars.
Both.
It's a totally different experience. With System, we're playing, I know what to expect. The band is big. You just said, you came to our show, there was 60,000 people there.
Everybody's singing along. with
Everyone's
every
singing
word.
along. But man, I just played 2 shows with Scars a couple weeks ago, one at Aftershock and one at the used to be Bank of California.
Mhm.
There was people singing Scars songs and there for Scars, and I was kind of like, I expected a lot less.
Yeah.
and it seems like a lot of people, I don't promote the band very much. I don't put the band out
Mhm.
too much, but there are people there that really enjoy those records and enjoy my writing and show up for those gigs. But it's different because there's a different vibe because you're working for it again.
Yeah.
It seems like you work for it with System, but when the people are there to see you and adore you and all,
And you're singing along with songs.
Singing
A lot
along.
of the work is done.
yeah, you know
in
what
the
to
material.
expect. With Scars, I never know what's going to come in front of me, and so there's this. It's a little bit more stressful
Yeah.
for me because I don't know what to expect. There's going to be 1,000 people there, 2,000 people there. Or they're going to be 200 people there. I don't know,
Mhm.
But these last shows, man, were really great with Scars, and I'm excited to put out this new record that I've actually been holding on to this record for a couple of years.
Mm.
So
It's a good sign that you can write songs, like even talking about System songs, you would talk about songs from different albums that might have been written in your parents' house. There's a timeless feeling about your songs where they don't sound like they're now or that they get old, that they're just sort of good songs, and good songs seem to always be good songs.
I think some people are like, hey, when I hear you play the guitar, I know it's you. And I'm like, I don't think it's so much the guitar. It's just the way I arrange songs, the way I write songs is, I think, if I had a signature to what I did,
it's the songs.
It's the songs. It's not necessarily the instrument that I'm playing. It's how I organize and how I compose and put things together that work in a way that it ends up sounding like one of my pieces.
Because you put together pieces that don't obviously go together.
Yeah.
But they flow very naturally in your songs.
Yeah, and I have a really broad taste in music. There's so many different kinds of genres, so many different kinds of music that I love. And, you know, you don't feel one way all the time either, you know? So I feel very fortunate to be an artist that I love death metal, but I couldn't just play in a death metal band.
Yeah.
I love...
No, it would get old. And it would be limiting.
Yeah, so I've kind of built myself in a way where fans aren't necessarily surprised when I do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I would do it regardless whether I can get away with it or not. It's just it's honest to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's cool to be able to have that room and not be just, you know, I have to use these heavy riffs and this vocal style all the time. Like, I feel very free as a songwriter to be able to kind of do what I want, and it kind of comes out sounding like me, whether it's a song like Lonely Day or a song like BYOB or, you know, there's some... Look, I know Scars isn't his biggest system, but some of my songs that I'm really proud of, I wrote. There's a song called Insane, Babylon, that are Scars songs. That Guns Are Loaded. There's some songs that I'm very, very proud of in the Scars catalog as well, you know? And so I think I'm fortunate to have that outlet as well, too, because some people have that one band. I do have another band that it seems like people care about and come to see.
Great.
So I feel very fortunate with that.
Tetragrammaton is a podcast. Tetragrammaton is a website. Tetragrammaton is a whole world of knowledge.
What may fall within the sphere of Tetragrammaton? Counterculture? Tetragrammaton. Sacred geometry? Tetragrammaton. The avant-garde? Tetragrammaton. Generative art? Tetragrammaton. The tarot? Tetragrammaton. Out-of-print music? Tetragrammaton. Biodynamics? Tetragrammaton. Graphic design? Tetragrammaton. Mythology and magic? Tetragrammaton. Obscure film? Tetragrammaton. Beach culture? Tetragrammaton. Esoteric lectures? Tetragrammaton. Off-the-grid living? Tetragrammaton. Alt spirituality? Tetragrammaton. The canon of fine objects? Tetragrammaton. Muscle cars? Tetragrammaton. Ancient wisdom for a new age. Upon entering, experience the artwork of the day. Take a breath and see where you are drawn.
Tetragrammaton.com